The Journey to Becoming podcast is all about the changes, transitions, and transformations we encounter on our journey to aligning with purpose and living life with intentionality, fulfillment, and impact. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and my mission is to help those starting their entrepreneurial journeys or simply shifting gears to better align with purpose by sharing the journeys of others, offering practical tips and strategies, and providing encouragement to help you pull through whatever obstacle is standing in your way. So I invite you to sit back, relax, and join me on this journey of discovery. Joining me on today's episode of the Journey to Becoming podcast is Sadie Evans. Sadie is an author, speaker, and the host of the Soul Food with Sadie podcast. As a first-generation college grad and business owner, Sadie is the epitome of self-development. As a survivor of childhood trauma, domestic violence, Sadie knows firsthand how to turn pain into purpose. And her goal is to help others transform their trauma into triumph. Welcome to the show, Sadie. We are so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Wow, such a powerful testimony and so many pieces that I want to unpack and uncover there. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about you and how you came to the work that you do today. Basically, tell us your story.
Hello, my name is Sadie. I'm an author, a speaker, and now I have a life coaching and consulting business in the podcast host of Soul Food with Sadie. And this was more like a calling for me. I tried to get away from it so many times, but it just was there. So doing the podcast, the writing, because I felt like people sometimes don't hear you when you screaming it to the world. And sometimes you fall on people that don't need to hear the message, but with writing, it's intentional. People that want to hear the message can buy it and read it. So that's how I kind of came into it.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about the author piece. So tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote, what the background or the motivation for that was.
I have the Cries from a Gracefully Broken Woman, and that's in life. And that came about because the book is called Cries from a Gracefully Broken Woman. That book came about because more so I was living my story, and I felt like all the things that I had went through, I was able to overcome to help someone else out. So I wrote the book, and it is a self-help book. I told my story to be transparent and for others to hear it.
That's awesome. And then, of course, with this podcast, I love the name and the title of it, Soul Food with Sadie. Please tell us a little bit more about, what you focus on, what topics you speak to, and your audience.
Okay, Soul Food with Sadie, that is to edify the soul, to help individuals with spiritual health, and to just live your best life on purpose. The topics that we discuss is healing and how to properly heal by getting to the root, processing it, forgiving, and then transforming your life. And the audience is individuals, men or women, that feel like they're stuck. They don't know how to turn their trauma into their superpower. They don't know how to get past their trauma. So I gear it towards that audience.
Okay, great. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story, because you mentioned you talk about the story in the book, and it's clearly what's been the catalyst for the coaching and consulting work that you do. Give us the 30,000 foot view of what your journey has been like up until this point.
Okay, well, I was born while my mom was incarcerated in an all-women's penitentiary. So my grandmother raised me. She did the very best that she could, but there was a lot of emotional abuse in the home, because my mom and my father were they were victims of the crack pandemic. I call it the pandemic because it hurt a lot of families. So they were victims of that, which led to me and my siblings just not feeling loved, feeling rejected and things like that. So when I grew older, my grandmother, first of all, kept us in church. So that was a good thing. But as I grew older, I started to get into these relationships with really toxic people because all I knew was toxic love. I didn't know that toxic and love couldn't coincide. I didn't know that because I grew up on that. So I was in domestic violence relationships from 16 until about 25 years old. I had my first child when I was 16 years old and left that relationship, got in another toxic relationship. So when I got to be 25 and I just was tired, I had to realize this is a pattern that I keep on picking. This is something within me, something that I need to work on, which led me on the journey of learning to love myself. And that is a journal and a devotional that I have. And on that journey of learning to love myself, I had to realize that there were things that I was dealing with that I hadn't healed from. I hadn't processed. I haven't gotten to the root of them things. So I was attracting that in my life. It felt comfortable for me. So this is how I got all that long journey is how I got here, where I was like, I feel like God allowed me to overcome a lot of things. And I have so much in me to give back to other people. And I was once that girl that felt stuck. I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to, anyone that would not judge me. So I want to be that for all the women and little girls, teens that feel like they have all this inside of them, but they don't even know how to transform it into something to work for their good.
Powerful, powerful. So at 25, it sounds like you had a moment, right? Best way to put it. You had a moment and something shifted for you. So what were some of the initial strategies or initial tactics or initial tools that you used in the very beginning to take you from that dark place that you were in to the person that you are today?
A lot of sermons, fasting, truly getting to know who God is, developing a relationship with God. Because as I stated, I was in church my whole life, but I never really had a personal relationship. So being in church and not having a personal relationship, I kept on going through this religious thing. I would mess up and then go back to church, mess up, go back to church. There was never no conviction. But once I developed a personal relationship with God, the conviction came in, and that's when I wanted to change. That's when I started to search for sermons, search for podcasts and things like that to help me get out of my mess.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And were there specific things like, we as coaches, right, we talk a lot, or we deal with mindset quite a bit, because we understand that your external world does not change until your mind changes. So as it relates to that, were there any special things that you did or realizations that you came to as it related to your mindset to start shifting that and shifting your life?
Journaling. I'm all for journaling. I will push journaling to the end because it really helped me release a lot of things that I was keeping inside, a lot of things that I didn't want to tell other people. And it helped me self-reflect. I was able to go back and look where I was a year ago, and I was able to see my growth, and that continued to make me want to grow as a person. And the realization was, I was living my life on the terms of other people. I was looking for validation outside of me, which kept me stuck. It kept me living for other people. So I was never happy. I always felt like I had this standard to live up to. And I was not able to be authentically Sadie. So that's the realization that I had. And that's the tool of journaling, is what helped me to even have that realization.
Yeah, I push journaling a lot too. My audience knows it, clients who I've worked with. First thing, you get a journal because it's therapeutic for sure. I totally agree with that. Now you mentioned that you created a devotional and a journal. Was that what was birthed out of your personal journey?
Yes, it actually is. I documented my journey of self-love. That's why it's called Learning to Love Thyself, because I literally documented it. And that came about because my ex, it was some infidelity, and he had a child out of that. And I was just crying. I was so hurt, but I never had said this prayer before. I said, Lord, change me until it don't hurt no more. I'm no longer praying for that person. Lord, change me. I'm praying for their safety and all that, but sometimes we look at other people and we look at what we can pray off of them, and we don't focus on ourselves. So I said, change me till it don't hurt no more. I was crying. I didn't eat for a couple of days. And literally I heard the Holy Spirit say, learning to love thyself. And that's when I went on it. I call it a 60-day spiritual surgery because it really opened me up and it drew me closer to God. And it really made me pay attention to the Holy Spirit in my life. And I was able to see where the enemy, his little fingerprints in my life and where he attacked me through that journey.
That is a powerful prayer. Change me. And there is a process that comes with that for sure.
Yeah.
But that's the beautiful part, right? It sounds like you came to the recognition that like external factors are external factors, right? At the end of the day, it's not necessarily, or I tend to believe it's not necessarily what happens to us, but it's, it's what's happening for us and how we're reacting to the things that are around us. So that is a powerful revelation to come to and ask God to change you, because that's when your external starts changing.
Yes. I was just tired of living a lie and not being happy with myself and really just pouring out poison to other people, because I feel like when you're not happy and you're not filled with joy and you're not authentically you cannot be authentic or genuine to anyone else. It's a facade, if you be honest.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Wanted to take a quick break to share some exciting news. I'm excited to share the relaunch of my TransformHer program. This 90-day accelerator has been specifically redesigned to support those currently facing or considering a shift in life, career, or business. The 90-day accelerator is jam-packed with training, coaching, and a ton of personalized resources to move you from scared to confident, thinking about it to doing it, striving to thriving, and of course, stuck to unstoppable. So if you're at the place where you want to or are ready to make that major shift in your life, career, or business, but are feeling stuck, not sure where to begin, or are just scared. And trust me, there's nothing wrong with that because we've all been there. You can learn more about the 90-Day Accelerator on my website at www.sabinegideon.com/transformher. On the site, you can schedule a complimentary call to see if the program is right for you. Given your journey, given what you've seen, now you're coaching individuals. Tell me a little bit about who you coach and, how they come to you and where you take them.
I haven't even started yet. So my business does not launch until fall 2021. I'm still in the birthing seat. I'm still carrying my baby. I ain't birthed it yet. So, yes, but my target goal is individuals that feel like they're stuck and feel like they don't know how to process the trauma or they don't know how to heal from the trauma, and just individuals that's ready to authentically be themselves and live life on purpose. I don't really want to do a lot of marketing with mine. I really want it to be word of mouth. So I prayed and I said, Lord, I want people to sought after me. I don't want to have to go broke or beg people to fix their life. I want individuals to come and seek me. That's what I want it to be.
Yeah, there's a different level of commitment when, people are ready and people have that desire for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, so given all of, the experience that you've had for yourself personally, your journey, what are some takeaways or what are maybe a lesson or a teaching that you could share with the audience that they can use to either journal in their free time or just meditate or reflect on?
I would just tell everyone that when we keep things inside of us, it really eats away at us and we're not able to even see how a strategy is going to come out of it. But when you begin to write them down, even if you don't even like to write, just try releasing it. And I guarantee a strategy will come out of that.
Yes, Sadie. So you have had, quite the journey. You have had quite the journey in becoming who you are today and gaining these new skills and ways of being so that you can now be in a place where you can help others. I'm curious to know, what's one takeaway or maybe a teaching that the listeners can walk away with and perhaps maybe journal in their free time or meditate on?
So on my journey, my takeaway would be to let everyone know, get to the root of your issue. And by doing that, you have to really study yourself and see what it is about you that could potentially have caused this, or what it is about you that could change this situation. Sometimes for me, it was obedience. It was just not being able to listen to what God told me to do. And it was also learning God's voice in my life, learning what God sounded like or what he would have me to do. And also surrounding myself around people that was healing, people that was ready to walk in their authentic self, and just not giving up on Sadie.
I love that. I love that. You know, I talk about the transformation process a lot, and I always reference the caterpillar, you know, turning into the butterfly. And oftentimes when we are in transition, or when we are in a space of, you know, growing, we have to shed. There's parts of us that we have to shed. There's relationships that we have to shed. There's things that, you know, can't go with us to the next place. And so what you said at the end just reminded me of that, of like the caterpillar really just shedding its entire identity to take on this new body, this new creature, if you will.
I like to think of the phoenix bird, like through the ashes, all the mess in our life, we can still rise, we can still soar, we can still be who God has called us to be. And sometimes individuals don't think that God can use them because they have all these little broken pieces in their life. And they feel like, well, I don't have this together, or I still do this, or I still do that, but God will use you. You can be healed. You can be whole. You can live in who you're supposed to be. You don't have to stay in that place of brokenness, because those broken pieces, they will eventually be your message. I always say your mess can be your message.
Yes. I love that. I love that. So question for you. I asked all of the guests, right? What do you know now that you wish that you could share with your younger self?
To trust the process. I would tell my younger self to truly trust the process, although it's a painful process, although I was a teen mom, although all those things I didn't see happening for my life. Trust the process. I never thought that I would be doing God's will. I felt like I was too filthy. I felt like God can't use me. I'm a single mom. I'm a lady that had kids out of wedlock, or I come from a family of individuals that lived in poverty our whole life. Trust the process is what I would tell my younger self, and the listeners too. Trust the process to get you to your purpose, no matter how painful it is.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And, you know, in terms of our listeners being able to connect with you, like, where can they find you or connect with you on social?
I'm on Instagram, Sadie Mae Evans _ coaching, on Facebook, Sadie Mae Evans Coaching and Consulting, on all podcast platforms now. So Soul Food with Sadie is that.
Awesome. Awesome. And those links are down in the show notes. So be sure to go out, connect with Sadie, download, subscribe, comment on the podcast, send her a message, let her know that you heard her on the journey to becoming podcast for sure. Before we go, any final thoughts, any final things that you want to share with the audience?
I do want to let the audience know about my 5 journal prompts that I have for free on my website at SadieMaeEvans.com. They can just go there, download it. It's an ebook. You can print it out. Or if you just want to write it in a notebook and journal it from there, just journal prompts to help you fall in love with your authentic self. And I also wanted to leave you guys with the gem. When you search outside of you for validation from other people and you ignore the person that God has called you to be, that means your life is no longer your own. It's the individuals that you're searching for validation within.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you heard it, and the link is in the show notes. Please go ahead and download the journaling prompts on Sadie's website. The full website is listed on there. All the links and all the resources that Sadie has shared will be included in the show notes. So please be sure to check it out. Also, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, The Journey to Becoming, share it with your network, and don't be shy. leave a comment if what was shared today really, really resonated with you. I think that will be a great blessing to both Sadie and I to hear how this interview has impacted you. Thank you again, Sadie. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your gems with us and your journey.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you were able to grab a few nuggets and some action items that you can begin implementing this week. I'll be back next week with some more actionable tips to help you along your journey of transition, change, and transformation. In the meantime, please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment on the platform of your choosing. And if you really enjoyed this content, go ahead and share it with your network. Share it with a friend, a family member, whoever it is you know that might benefit from the information that was shared today. Until next time, have a wonderful and purposeful week.